Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Today's Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, and for the Fulton County Port Authority Special Management Team, thank you all for being here this morning. If you have not heard the sad news, unfortunately, we lost Commissioner Mann this week. Tuesday morning, he passed away after decades of service here to Lee County and service in the state of Florida. We all would truly miss him. He was a pilot too. I think he's the only one besides Commissioner Sandelli who was a pilot on our Port Commission here, and so he's been really proud of this airport and all the staff here, and I'd like to recognize him. We could also please stand for the invocation. We have Stephen Goss here for the Faith of the Assembly of God, as we can do a moment of silence for Commissioner Mann following the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pray today. Heavenly Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for your favor. And Lord, we just ask for your presence, for your wisdom. Lord, we don't know all things, but you do. And so, God, we ask that in these tough times, in these difficult times, we ask for your wisdom. We ask for your direction. And God, we ask for your favor. And we pray that you would bless this meeting, that you be with us in this place. And we thank you. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. If you don't mind, I'd like to have the opportunity for any of the board members or any of the special management team that wants to make any comments about Commissioner Mann. We all known him for so many years, and we all have something special. I'm sure we could talk all day about stories, and we could laugh and we could cry, but I think maybe he wants to hear to say anything. Please feel free to.
Well, I just appreciated him because, he was always supportive of us, almost more so than anybody. He always said, let's rely on these folks because we pay them so much or something like that. He said it many, many times, and I just appreciated that he saw value in what we did, and he just was always so wise, and he'd been through so many governmental things that he really saw through and cut to the quick, and he was just a pleasant guy, really, and just we'll miss him. I'll miss him for sure.
You could always count on Frank. If you were feeling down or anything, you could talk to him and he'd make you feel like you were on top of the world again. And I always really appreciated all of the effort. Anytime that any issues came up in the community, you could always call Frank, and he was always there. He'd always offer something and some kind of perspective to try to bring people together to work together. And he's really going to be missed because he was always there for us anytime we ever called him.
Right. And Robbie, you're his appointee. He loved you.
It is kind of, it's tough, knowing Frank for so many years and being his appointee. And you feel like you always had to be there. And I never bothered Frank, but he would call me quite a bit and ask opinion on things that were coming up. And you always had to be ready for him. And I guess what was kind of special is Pat, his brother, called 2 weeks ago and said, Robbie, is there any way you can pull together space for us to have the coffee club and let us surprise Frank?
Yeah.
So I said, absolutely, no problem. So I tried setting it for this week, and he said, I don't think so. Can we set it this week? And I said, well, sure. So we did, and he was so happy to be surrounded by all of his old coffee club, and they were going through quite a bit of history.
The same week he had lunch with a bunch of the guys too, with Bruce and Skip and a bunch of the guys, and just had that lunch opportunity. So it was nice. He wanted to keep on going,
It did, right to the end. So he was a special man.
Yes.
It's gonna be hard.
I'm really glad the commissioners recognized the work he did for 2020 and named the preserve after him.
We were actually we were going to do that and hoping he was going to be there initially, and got the call the day before that he was not going to be there, but we're still going to do it, and he was not some family there. And then we're all hoping he was still be home watching on TV, and then we got that call. But the night before I left, I went to his office around 7 o'clock that night and turned his light on because I had a feeling that he probably wouldn't be there the next morning. So left his light on, and Stacy came the next morning with Pat and Franklin, and I said, yeah, I turned it on. He was worked all night, so. But it's unfortunate. And Ben, you known him for 25 years.
Yeah, I would like to just make a few comments, Mr. Chair. And I was thinking about some of the things that I wanted to say, and for myself, I decided to just write down a few things. So if I could just just make a few comments. So Commissioner Mann's passing, of course, was an incredibly sad day for all of Lee County, and I just really want to thank the board so much for the wonderful recognition and ceremony on Tuesday honoring, this great man for all his service for Lee County and really the state of Florida. Commissioner Mann, like all of our board members and Airport Special Management Committee members, he recognized really the true economic value of what the airport represents and really what all the airport employees do to keep this airport machine running smoothly, really every day. And for those of you that don't know, the chairman just mentioned that, but he was a pilot and he was extremely proud about that. He spoke about his flying, and Ed Wilson, who was actually his flight instructor and taught him to fly, actually is celebrating his 92nd birthday this week. Commissioner Mann just absolutely loved representing Pagefield and RSW. And although he may have challenged all of us during his briefings on over the years, and typically it was about purchasing, items such as like a tractor, for example. If we wanted to buy a new tractor that was maybe 20 years old, and he would get upset because his tractor was 40 years old. Why do we need to buy a new one? He didn't really do that. He really wasn't doing it for fun. He was doing it because he was really just trying to be a good steward of, obviously, of all of our public funds. And but we always answered without a flinch. We answered the questions, and we always offered him a ride on our new tractors after we bought it. So he never took us up on it, but he definitely he seemed interested. So anyway, I'd like to personally just thank the entire Mann family for sharing Commissioner Mann with us for all these years. I certainly personally am a better person for knowing him and having worked with him for all these years. And on behalf of all of us at the Lee County Port Authority, Commissioner Mann, I know you'll be looking down on your favorite airports with a smile, and we'll always be sure to make you proud. Thank you for all you've done for Lee County and the Lee County Port Authority. Godspeed. Thank you.
Yeah. Just remember, don't make it too far of a walk from the to
absolutely.
the terminal.
If I may say, at the coffee thing, he did say, now I'm probably not gonna be there when you cut that ribbon on this new addition, but I'm gonna be watching you, and you better not screw it up. That goes for all of us.
So thank you.
It's funny you brought Ed Wilson up. He's still alive then, huh?
Yeah, he's actually celebrating we're having a quick little thing. He's gonna come to Pagefield on Friday. All of you are welcome to attend. I think he's going to try to just make it for a very short period of time. He's celebrating his 92nd birthday.
Okay. Yeah. His son's, is he still active? Ed Jr., is he still active at all or not?
That I'm not sure. Scott, do you know? Is Scott here?
So his son, Junior, Ed Jr., is probably a year older than me because I remember I was probably 16 or 17. Frank Jr. and me went to school together, and I went to school with Ed at Canterbury. A little quick story. And Frank was going to take the boys up for a plane ride at Pagefield. We all met there, and Mr. Wilson was there, and he says, Franklin, you can't put those three boys in that little plane. So at the time, Ed Wilson Jr. was probably 300 plus pounds. I was only like 210, 220 at the time. I was a little bit lighter, had a lot of hair then. But between that and between me and Frank Jr. and then Ed Jr., he said, you can't put those three boys in that plane and go, you won't make it to the Gulf. And so we decided not to go up in the plane. But Frank, I think he went up with Ed anyway. Right. The training pilot. But that was probably in 1979, probably. I think
it was in the 70s.
79.
Yeah,
probably.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I reminded Frank of that years ago, and he remembered. He said, "You boys were too healthy back then. We fed you too well." And but anyway, it was this because Ed Wilson Jr. was a big boy back then. So I was thinner, but I had hair though. But it was this but Frank was always a character. He was always fun to be around and everything. Yeah. So we'll all be truly miss him. He's just unbelievable. He's gone now. But Ray, do you want to say anything?
Well, just a couple things. My entry into the political arena came rather suddenly when the governor called me. And be honest with you, and I mentioned this the other day, I didn't even really know where the building was. So I flew back on vacation, and 3 days later, I'm in the seat, and Brian's running the meeting. And I'm trying to follow along and not appropriately, like I know what's going on. And so finally, the meeting comes to an end, and getting ready to close the meeting. And Frank sits on the other side, and he leans over and he says, "Oh, one more point of business." He says, "Young Mr. Commissioner, because you took Larry's seat, you have the opportunity to be the chairman." And what I wanted to say was, I just found this chair, I had no idea what's going on. I said, so I'm going to defer to Brian, because it was obviously Brian knew what was going on. He handled it so well, and I was only interested in what was best for Lee County. The gavel goes down. Frank walks in back and he taps me on the shoulder. He goes, "No, that was pretty good for me putting you on the spot like that." And I said, "Frank, one thing I did hear about you is that you put people on the spot. And I hope he continues to tap me on the shoulder once in a while." And the only other thing is, when I hear all these nice things, I think when we're all young, sometimes we're legends, sometimes it's only in our own mind. But what we really leave is a legacy. And when you hear these comments about Frank, you understand the legacy he left for all of us.
Well, he was the king of political strategy. In that moment, he was trying to see where you would go in that political strategy. So he was working it already, and you were just new as green as green. So he was working you already, right?
That's right.
Commissioner
I hope he
Hammond?
continues to work for me.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, certainly, as a young man, which he liked to call me young man, in his big southern voice, I learned plenty of lessons at the hands of Frank Mann, but all good ones. And I can say this, I'm a better commissioner today because of the lessons I learned working with him for the past almost 9 years. I can't believe it's been that long. I had admired him long before I got a chance to work with him. He is a part of Lee County. He is a part of the fabric of what makes our county what it is. When you look at our county and people say how much better we are than the East Coast, a lot of that's due to his championship of the environment and policies that would make sure that we preserve open space. And so I admire that I don't think he missed a commission meeting, even the entire time he was going through his battle. And I think that's pretty impressive. That's really impressive. And we'll miss him. We're gonna.
You got to interview him before you're in your younger career.
Yeah, so I'll
Have
share
these
the
young
story.
stories.
I shared it on Facebook. It was, it makes me wonder, like, who are we interacting with today that someday we may end up working with down the road? But so I was 20 years old. I was a rookie camera guy working for a television station here locally. And one night, it was election night, 2000, the big Al Gore versus George W. night. And so they said, "Hammond, you're going to run the newsroom camera, and you'll be with our political expert Frank Mann tonight." And so I had to spend I got a chance to spend the whole night talking to Frank in between cut-ins. And I told him, wow, I just voted in my first presidential election. I voted for George W., and I sure hope he wins. And he's breaking my heart. He's like, "Young man, there's no way Al Gore has won Florida, and so George W. is not going to be president, And he's helping console me as I'm taking the loss here pretty hard, because this is my first time voting in a presidential election.
He voted Republican too.
And oh yeah, and it was just great. We had a really good night, and so it was so cool because, as I kind of mentioned in some of my comments, he was there when I made my first vote for president. He was there later when I made my first vote as a county commissioner, and it was an honor to be there for his last meeting and to help him when it was time to stand for the pledge. And I just hope that I hope that we'll be able to carry on in his legacy and in his footsteps as we move forward, because he will be missed. We didn't always vote the same. Everybody knows that. He enjoyed being called 4-1 Frank, but you develop a bond and a friendship that goes beyond the politics that I'll cherish for a long time to come.
And I remember telling Brian the last meeting 2 weeks ago, and I looked at Brian. I said, "You just made history. You sat next to Frank Mann for the last meeting."
Yeah.
And we realized that was probably going to be the last meeting. So
Yeah.
So. Okay, well, thank you for everybody's indulgence. So give us a few minutes to remember Frank, and we will never forget him, of course. So,
Diesel,
yes, sir.
may I?
Yeah, please do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just quickly.
You're down Ray's hiding you.
No, that's all right. I'm hiding it back here in the corner. I'm eternally grateful to Frank, and thank you, Frank, for appointing me to this committee, because I absolutely love what I'm doing here and what this group is doing. I love aviation, and Frank recognized that and appointed me, and then supported my reappointment, like with Robbie, and I just want to say thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on for the public comment on the consent agenda. Any public comment on the consent agenda at this time? None at this time. The consent agenda items be pulled by discussion. Commissioner Hammond,
I have none.
Commissioner Sendelli, and I have now. We motion to approve the balance of the items.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Commissioner Sendelli. Any other discussion? Any objection? No objection. Motion carries. I just want to take note also, Commissioner Wayne is not able to make it this morning to a commitment already, so it's just going to be us three this morning. Sorry. Administrative agenda. Ben, number 1.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask Mr. McGonigal to introduce the item.
Morning, Commissioners. For the record, Brian McGonigal. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you.
Sorry. Actually, item number 4, actually.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, item number 4 is we're requesting the board approve the fiscal year 22-23 Lee County Port Authority budget, also the rates and fees pursuant to the Airline Airport Use Agreement, the 22-23 compensation plan, and the page fail rates and fees. Commissioners, if you recall, back in last month, we presented next year's budget to you in detail. We walked you through the whole budget, all the revenues and expenses and the fees. And we did make, as a result of your June 7th meeting, we did make a few changes, and I'll walk you through what the changes we did. So at the May 6th workshop, you directed us to do a 5% adjustment to all employees this year. You also directed us to do a 7% COLA 10-1 and up to a 3% merit on anniversary date. At your June 7th meeting, there were some changes. As you recall, you convened as the Board of Port Commissioners. We implemented the exact same pay adjustment that the county did, the 10 down to 3. We implemented that. It's effective actually today and will be employees' paychecks on July 13th. And we thank you for that, by the way. And you also directed us to remove merit next year. So we did that. And then for discussion purposes only, we were told to put the 5% COLA in next year's budget, not for approval, just for discussion purposes only. So that's the only change that we did. If you want, I can give you some highlights of the budget. If you want, I'd be glad to do that, but otherwise that's the only change.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, real quick, Mr. Chairman. So just to make sure we're clear on it, so the proposal that's before us in this item does include the 5% COLA adjustment then?
Yes, it is. It is in the numbers. It's about 1.7 million. It is in the numbers, but it's just for discussion purposes only. That's
okay. But
yeah.
but if we do pass this as a tentative budget, this is the one that'll get forwarded to
Yes.
us at
Yes.
the okay.
Yes, sir.
At the budget hearing.
Yeah.
And so then that leaves us with that cost per employment of $7.35.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it's only 4% more than this year's budget, so it's a good cost.
And that's, how does that compare to the cost per employment to other airports? Is similar?
Well, what we've been reading is for medium-sized hub airports, the average cost per EP is about $850.
Oh, wow. So we're coming in under that.
We're coming in under that, and we have been for many years, so
Excellent.
it's a
answers
good rate.
My questions, Mr. Chairman. It does appear that we're able to pay for all the things that we're proposing in this year's budget. So. And deliver a good cost per employment to the passengers.
I have a question. Brian, real quick, it says here that 5% COLA will be for all employees effective October 1st. Would that be in their paycheck in October, or is it based, I thought I heard you say based upon the anniversary date?
No, the merit was removed, and that's on the anniversary date.
Right.
The 5% is effective 10/1.
Period, across the
Period.
board.
Across the board.
Okay, just want to make
Yep.
sure. Okay, thank
Yep.
you. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, any public comment on this item? We have one card, Brandon Jacobson. Any other public comment for item number 4? Come forward after Mr. Jacobson. Mr. Jacobson, you have 3 minutes, please.
Brandon Jacobson, employee at the Port Authority here. Just want to thank the board for their open-mindedness, and the reason I'm here is for that 5% discussion. And at the May workshop meeting, this budget assumptions graph was shown, and it shows the port requesting a 22.5% increase in their operating budget just for inflation. It's an overall 50% increase from 2019 to 2023, but inflation is only 22.5. That's what the port is requesting. But when we look at the employee COLA increases, we're talking about 5%. If we look at our raise this past year, it was 3% COLA and 2% merit. So that's another 5%. We're up to 10. We did a pay adjustment, 10 to 3%. That was to make up for the 07, 08, 2012 deficiencies. So even with that, we're still not up to 22.5%. The CPI numbers that we use are the nationwide numbers at 8.6% the past year. Tampa area is 11.3%, and Miami is 9.6%. This is just the past year. Our household debt is up 8.18% over the past year, American household debt. Our savings, second lowest in history, down to 4.4% behind 2006. We talk about inflation, and our milk has doubled, our eggs have doubled, our fuel has doubled, our housing costs in the area are up 300% over the past 8 years. But we're only talking about a 5% COLA. The port is requesting 22.5% to pay for all the expenses. We're going to pay our contractors more. We're going to pay our vendors more because it costs more. But our employees are not being paid at a similar rate. Our budgets have increased. We operate in the red. So when we talk about a COLA, this 8.6%, that's the past year. We've been paying the extra 8.6%, but we try to catch up in October. I'm just here to ask the board to consider more than 5% in the budget talks. If we've lost the merit raise, are we going to replace it with something? Is it going to be longevity? Is it going to be just called an annual raise, a loyalty raise? So now we're just down to talking about a COLA. Our revenues are up 23.89%.
Thank you, Brian. Your red light's on, means your time's up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment on item number 4? Okay, we'll come back to the board for any other discussion. Brian, did you have anything else before we for a motion?
No, I don't, sir.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other discussion or a motion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I certainly respect the comments that were made by the person who spoke, the employee who spoke. Look, I'll just be real honest with you. I know exactly what it's like to not get raises because we don't get raises as commissioners. I mean, whenever we've gotten raises, like it's usually like 0.1%. And as the only person working in my household trying to raise a family of 4, it gets tight. So I truly understand what you're talking about. I feel like this is a very generous budget that we've put together, and certainly want to make sure that we take care of our folks because we certainly understand what they're going through. I feel like what we're doing here is very competitive with what the private sector is doing to also take care of their employees. So I mean, you know, I respect the comments that were made, and it is a shame that we're in a state as a country where we've elected, and I didn't vote for him, but we elected a president who's taken us down a path in the last 18 months that has really just messed up our country. And until people start voting differently and choose new leadership, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to continue on this path. And so that's really disappointing. And so now here we are trying to make up for that. And so I'm glad that we were able to do the 10 through 3, especially for the folks who make less than the $52,000 a year. That hopefully will really help them as they're combating increases in rent and groceries and all that. And I'm also supportive of the 5 that's built into here. And so with that, you know, when it's time to make a motion, I'll make a motion to forward this to the September hearing.
I think also you got to look at the whole conversation, and we're obviously raises are occurring today. I think that started this paper.
Effective today, yes, sir.
Yeah, the increases now instead of wait till October. And I heard the comment about the merit raise going away. That was the benefit for the employees, so there's no discrepancies about who gets up to 5%. So the up to 5% is a guaranteed, not on anniversary date, so you get it for the full 12 months. So it's actually as a benefit for the employees. I saw it as that, and that's the purpose of taking away the merit part, was because there's no disparity of treatment between employees. So everybody was treated, and we done the thing we did for the sheriff's department. Everybody gets the same across the board. That was, I think, the board's goal then with that motion was to spread more money out to our community, because we understand our neighbors, our employees, we appreciate the police department is really important here, but we're trying to get that done. And I know the police department's chosen a collective bargaining agreement now they have to go through, so now that's something they can negotiate for through the collective bargaining agreement process. But I was very comfortable with this, with the current raises we just did this week. For the employees, and this, hopefully, like you said, hopefully the tide will change with the local economy, and we will try to, you're never going to see in public sector, you're ever going to get ahead of the economy. You're always trying to catch up with what's going on in the private sector. But again, that's why our men and women come to work every day and put the boots on and go to work, is because they're there to serve their airport. So we're trying to get there as far as pay. So I think this budget was a good way to get there. Mr. Dell, you have any comments before you get a motion? Okay,
Compensation is always a difficult decision, you know. And, a couple things. One is, I think we put an awful lot of work collectively into this. What is the right number, and what can we justify? When the governor asked me to do this, he said, be good stewards of the people's money. And I think, you know, that's always kind of top of mind. And so I think we have. It's hard to always come to consensus, but I think if you can answer to yourself, I also think that salary itself is one component of overall compensation. You know, we've got good medical programs, we've got a retirement system. Not everybody in the private sector has those things. And I think you have to look at compensation holistically, not just in one line item. So I'm comfortable with where we are.
Okay, great. Any type of action or motion, please?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman, of the item as presented.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hammond.
Second.
Okay, second, Commissioner Sandelli. Any other discussion? Any objection? No objection, motion carries. Item number 5.
Thank you. Number 5, we're requesting the board approve the use of a state contract with Carasoft Technology. This is a subscription agreement for DocuSign. I know some of you have used DocuSign for business. It works really good. We started using it right when the pandemic started. It's starting to hit board levels now, so we locked in an agreement. We found one with the state. It's about $94,000 a year. It's good for 1 year with 2 additional 1-year renewals.
Thank you. Any public comment? Item number 5. Being none, we'll come back to the board for any questions, discussions, or a motion.
I'll move approval of the staff recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. We have a second. Commissioner Sandelli. Any other discussion? Any objection? No objection. Motion carries. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Number 6, we request the board enter an agreement with the Lee County Port Authority and Hub Technology. This is for the operation and maintenance of our parking revenue control system in the parking lot. That it's called Parks, P-A-R-C-S. We've been using this since we opened the midfield terminal. It's a solid system. We want to continue it for 3 more years with an option for 3 additional years. It's about $98,000 a year. And number 2, we're requesting a task authorization for $145,000. This is to replace all the gate arms throughout the parking lot and in the garage.
Great. Any public comment, item number 6? Being none, we'll come back to the board for action.
I'll move approval, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? Any objection? No objection, motion carries. Number 7?
Thank you. Number 7, Commissioners, we're requesting the board approve an agreement between Lee County Port Authority and Starboard Consulting for the maintenance and management of Maximo. This was presented to you last month. We did an RFP to upgrade our Maximo asset management system. The board selected Starboard to do this. This is the contract coming back to you for approval. It's a 5-year contract with an additional 5-year renewal.
Great, thank you. Any public comment, item number 7? Come back to the board for a motion.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion, Commissioner Hammond, second, Commissioner Sandelli. Any objection? No objection, motion carries. Number 8?
Thank you. Number 8, Commissioners, requesting the board approve an agreement with AT&T through a state contract. This contract is for all the Port Authority mobile devices, all the phones and tablets through AT&T. We spend about $190,000 a year. This locks us in. Actually, each device is $49.95 a month, so it's unlimited data, and it's the exact same rate that the county pays. Just for
Great.
So you know.
Any public comment, item number 8? Come back to the board for action.
Move approval.
We have a motion, and a second, Commissioner Sandelli. Any objection? No objection, motion carries.
Okay.
Number 9?
Thank you.
Steve's got this one.
Good morning. For the record, Stephen Hennigan. Item number 9 is for a request for board approval to award a 3-year contract for pressure washing services to Midland Pressure Washing. This provides pressure washing services to 42 specific locations at RSW, and the estimated annual amount is $150,000 per year per the terms of the contract.
Thank you. Any public comment on number 9? Being none, come back to the board for an action.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion and a second with Commissioner Sandelli. Any objection? No objection, motion carries. Number 10, Steve?
All right, number 10 is request the board to amend contract 9144 with Bob Dean Supply for the purchase and delivery of electric motors for the baggage handling system that was previously approved by the board in September of 2021. This contract amendment increases the contracted price of the bow door motors by approximately 33% to cover the price increases the manufacturer has made to the distributors. These increases pass through the costs with no additional markup to the Lee County Port Authority.
Great. Any public comment on item number 10? Dean, then we'll come back to the board for a motion.
I'll move approval, Mr. Chair. It appears, we obviously have no choice. This is one of those inflation things, again, that we've talked about that is hitting us, hitting the private sector, hitting everybody.
We have a motion. I'll second it.
Second.
Any objection? No objection, motion carries.
All right, item number 11 is request board approve a service provider agreement with Callahan Tire for the purchase and installation of tires on an as-needed basis via the terms and conditions of the contract. We are currently using Callahan Tires and have been happy with their service, and we anticipate to spend approximately $100,000 a year through the life of the contract spread across both airports.
Great. Any public comment, item number 11? Back to the board for a motion.
I'll move approval.
A motion. We have a second, Commissioner Sandelli. Any objection? No objection. Motion carries. Number 12.
Number 12 is a request the board authorize the security guard services agreement with Universal Protection Services to provide security guard services for Lee County Port Authority by piggybacking a state of Florida contract that it goes through March 8th of 2025. We estimate the cost to be up to $350,000 a year, and it would allow the airport to utilize the contract to staff Gate 64, which is the primary airfield access gate, and reallocate our employees to the terminal roadways to help manage the increase in traffic we are seeing at our facilities.
Great, thank you. Any public comment, item number 12? Come back to the board for a motion.
I plan to support the item, Mr. Chair, but could you just elaborate more on the Gate 64 and how things are gonna change there?
So the primary change will be who is staffing the gate. So it's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week gate. It's a mandate by TSA that we follow certain protocols, do certain safety checks. So the difference would be, instead of having our employees there, we'd be able to utilize this contract to help supplement, and this contract will also help supplement holiday seasons or peak demands that we could bring in staff as needed to help supplement our police force and the traffic control specialists within that.
Excellent. I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Can we have a motion? A second. I have a second, Commissioner Sandelli. Any objection? No objection, motion carried. Number 13.
Number 13 is request board approve the purchase of 18 new patrol vehicles for the Airport Police Department in accordance with the request by the board at the May 5th Joint Board of Port Commissioner meeting. 10 vehicles will be procured from Garber Ford and 8 from Duval Ford. The requested motion includes a 10% cost contingency to be utilized in the event of any unanticipated supply chain challenges. And that brings a total to just over $1.7 million, utilizing the Florida Sheriff's Association contract as the procurement method. We expect delivery no later than the end of September 22 of the vehicles, and then installation of all required accessories using Lightning Wireless Solutions, which is also a part of the contract.
Great, thank you. Any public comment on this item? No, we'll come back to the board. I just want to say thank you for staff for working on this. It's really important. As we heard from the employees earlier, this is another one of those benefits that's going to help the employees and not be a salary increase, but this is definitely going to help with the work morale. As far as having that car, it's an industrial standard pretty much throughout law enforcement through the country, and it's definitely going to be a savings to the employee. Long term, the Port Authority will see a savings from this because of the cars will last longer. So rotation of cars every 3 years being sold out. You see cars lasting up to 9 to 10 years when they're actually accounted for, and there's accountability there as far as maintenance of the vehicles and stuff. So we'll see a savings long term from this with these cars. So thank you. So we'll come back to the board for a motion. I'd be happy to second it.
I'll move the item.
We have a motion. I'll second that. Any other discussion?
I have one comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not into tractors, so I'm not into that, but if we get these new vehicles, I'd love to take a ride.
There you go. You got to ride on, Chief.
Spirit of Frank.
You hear that? You got to ride along here. So put him out on night shift.
Do a ride along.
Yeah. These times he's got to come work the week of Christmas. Put him on the curb.
There you go.
And tell him what it's like. There you go. Okay, we have a motion second. Any other discussion? Any objection? No objection. Motion carries. Number 14.
Number 14 is request board approve and award the purchase of airport passenger shuttle buses for the Lee County Port Authority to Huntley Dealership Services for the purchase of 15 non-ADA Ford F-450 buses. The bid for the buses is just over $1.4 million plus a 10% contingency for a total of just over $1.6 million, contingent upon the approval and appropriation of the FY23 annual budget. These buses will replace our current fleet, which are at or near the end of their useful life and have a delivery date of no later than December 31st of 2022.
It's the same cost as the police cars. They're expensive. Any public comment on item number 14? Nope. Come back to the board for any discussion or motion.
Move approval.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. Commissioner Sandelli. Any objection? No objection. Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. We'll move on to commissioner items, committee appointments. Commissioner Hammond, would you have any commissioner items or committee appointments?
No items and no appointments this morning.
Neither do I. Comments from the chair of the Airport Special Management Committee.
Well, acting chair today, the senior member. Any comments, Bob?
Nothing.
Okay, any comments?
Sir?
You have any comments you wanna make?
No, sir.
Thanks for this,
Great
Special
job.
Manager. So, thank you.
Okay.
John doing all right? I haven't talked to him. Is everything good?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think, did you wanna mention about Fran?
Fran is
was gonna ask
not
Fran.
doing so good. I did share, she wanted to make sure I shared with
Okay.
her trustee.
Okay, I was gonna ask for her next, so, okay.
Okay. No, no comments today. Thank you.
Great, we'll
Mr.
keep her in
Chair.
our prayers. Thank you. Ben, any comments? You have
Yes, sir,
items
Mr.
for
Chair,
us?
thank you. In late May, the Federal Aviation Administration conducted their on-site inspection of the Southwest Florida International Airport to review our compliance with our Part 139 airport certification, which basically allows us to operate as a commercial service airport. The inspectors took more than 120 specific items, including fueling, runway, and taxiway markings and lights, as well as our ARF response timing. This year's inspection found zero discrepancies. And I just want to thank our maintenance, airside operations, and ARF teams for their collaborative efforts to ensure RSW is meeting all the requirements to operate safely at our airport. Thank you all very much. I appreciate that. It's a great accomplishment to get zero discrepancies on that inspection. I'd also like to, I'm very excited to announce that our 3 canine teams recently completed their evaluations, and each passed with a perfect score, which affirms their dedication on focus to safety. So today we have Officer John Schaefer with Canine Roger here. Correct? Oh, he didn't make it.
I'm the only one here today.
Oh, you're the only one here, okay. And then we had Officer Tony Ung with Canine Kimmy, and then Officer Jim Ross with Canine Savannah, who's here. So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank Officer John Heald, who recently has taken a lead role in the Canine unit. He and Canine Boomer are currently certified under a separate national certification. So we're very proud of all the work that they're doing.
Where's the dog?
Yeah, I don't know, where's Savannah? Is she working?
She's here, but I don't want to destroy this meeting while today's.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay.
I think it should be mandatory that they come.
Yeah. Well, I saw Officer Ung here doing, inspecting the facility earlier. Yeah, with Kimmy.
Walked around my car in the parking lot, I got
Yeah.
real nervous.
Yeah, the dog sat twice. Also, Fitch Ratings recently affirmed an A rating for approximately our $403 million of airport revenue bonds issued on behalf of the Southwest Florida International Airport. The outlook is stable. The rating reflects a well-balanced mix of our major airlines, strong passenger recovery, and competitive cost per employment level, as well as a manageable capital needs and a robust liquidity, easy for me to say, compared to our peers with other ratings in this category. In May, 836,379 passengers traveled through RSW, which is an 11.8% reduction compared to May of 2021. We expected traffic to change as airlines like Frontier, Southwest, and Spirit, who accounted for most of the loss, sharply curtailed flights due to several operational and cost factors. Some good news is, although seats for May were down 24%, the passenger traffic loss was only half that, which means we have very high load factors. I'd also like to mention that May's traffic, although was down compared to May 21, which was, incredibly high month and really an anomaly for us in terms of our traffic, we're still ahead of May 19, which was a normal year for us and also a record year for us. So May 2019, we're still above those numbers. So we're still doing quite well in terms of our passenger activity. Pagefield ended the month with 15,527 flights, which is a 28% increase compared to May of 2021. This significant increase is a great part due to flight training taking place at Pagefield. And then lastly, good news for international travel. The U.S. recently ended COVID-19 testing requirements for air travelers coming into the U.S. This restriction had put a significant damper on people traveling to Europe and beyond, as they had to have negative COVID tests 24 hours prior to returning to the United States. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Also, I'd like to recognize our clerk of courts, Kevin Carnes, is here this morning. So Kevin, thanks for being here this morning. And a port attorney.
Mr. Chairman, just one item, if I might. You may notice that your administrative agenda is quite lengthy as compared to past practice, and that your consent agenda has constricted substantially. we have the legislature to thank for that. They recently adopted a law that requires any item that incurs the expenditure of $325,000 or more to be placed on the administrative agenda. So you will continue to see this practice going forward.
Great. Thank you to the
That's all
state
we
of
got.
Florida. Love it when the House is in session.
You know that, as Frank would say, our friends in the legislature helped us out with that one.
Yeah. We're government, we're here to help you.
They offer us this,
Yeah.
I think
I'm
he
from the
called it
government, I'm here to help
unsolicited
you.
help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, any other public comment on other matters at this time? Anything not on agenda, any public comment on anything?
Yes, we'd like to say something from the officers at the time.
Oh, okay, speakers just come forward. You have 3 minutes. Morning.
Morning. Nick Lubaraki with the Port Authority Police Department. So, as a thank you for everything that you've done, as well as Chief Chamberlain, we had some plaques made for everyone. Unfortunately, Mr. Mann is not here to accept it, so if anybody knows somebody from his family,
We'll get
or
to his
can
family.
deliver it over to him. Got one for Ray Sandelli, Commissioner Ray Sandelli.
Go up.
Commissioner Brian Hammond.
Thanks for your service. Appreciate it.
Also with Commissioner Ruane not in.
Yep.
If somebody could deliver this over to him. Thank you. And then Commissioner Cecil Pendergrass.
Thank you. Thank you. You're going to take Kevin to Frank? Oh, yes. I just talked to Frank's brother yesterday. We'll be exchanging stuff the next few weeks, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Chief Chamberlain, if you could come down. And that'll be everything. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that was a good surprise. We usually don't get that on public comments, so thank you. You guys should come to our regular meetings downtown. It's a little bit different. Right. Well, thank you to the Airport Police Department for the recognition from the Port of Stone. Okay. Any other public comment at this time? Okay. If not, we'll be adjourned. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.